Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to episode of Art of the Game over here on Cabot Crossing. And this is where us three game masters with different levels of experience or different experiences with different game systems. We come here to share tips and tricks and do a little debating about tabletop role playing. And sometimes we hold up cats because the internet loves cats.
So fat.
Yeah.
And today's topic is courtesy of Woody. What are we talking about today?
Well, I had a recent experience at Emerald City Comic Con where we had a customer come up and he, not obviously going to call anyone out by name, but he had this complaint that his players were not very creative with the use of magic. And they're always throwing fireball, which, as we all know, is the greatest spell ever. But it solves everything. But he was complaining about his players just basically go with like vanilla tactics, right? But then he proceeds to explain to us like what he thinks better tactics are, and I was listening to this absolute shocking brutality of what he thinks are good tactics, like just violence and maiming and like taking out the bad guys or his opponents, not seeming to really consider the fact that clearly those same tactics could be used against him to the exact same effect. But then he's also starts talking about how he runs his game and it's just as violent and brutal as he likes to play. And then it's like, and this is in the same sentence where he's complaining about his players' lack of creativity. And it suddenly comes from an outside perspective. It comes into very stark focus and clarity why they behave that way, because it's in direct response to his GMing style. And, obviously no criticism. He's a customer. I appreciate him purchasing my book, but it is an interesting point that I've kind of had on my mind for a while. And it's good time to have that be a topic, because there are exceptions to this, because we do obviously have those troublemaker players at our table sometimes, but they're in general, as a GM, you are the one setting the table culture. And if you want the players to behave a certain way, you can encourage that by the way you run the game. And you can also get them to behave differently by changing the tone of the world. And, in his case, it might be too late to reverse course, but I think it's an interesting point of discussion of that topic, right? Like it is very true, because the GM sets the tone.
I think there's actually two topics there. One is, in his particular case, why his world led to the behavior that his players are doing, right?
Yeah.
And then how do you set the culture, at the table? Because the first one is very much if you're constantly having every single battle be life and death, where everything's crap, and at any given point you could die because it's a brutal world, then obviously they're going to pick the spell that does 8d6 freaking damage, because it's the most damaging spell that you can do at that level.
It's the most efficient way to dispense with the threats to their lives. Lives. So that would be in that case. My advice there is stop making every battle life and death. Usually it's a set of easy battles, and then maybe a sub boss, easy and then hard, right, or something like that. So, well, if you want them to be creative, give them some breathing room.
Yeah. Well, and give them something besides just pure combat. So, a reason to use illusion spells and other stuff too. So,
and also, go ahead.
Well, I was just thinking, like, this also comes from a 5-minute conversation, but
who knows what's
he left an impression, I will say. So,
like one way you can actually set, in this particular case, one way you can set the table on how things are is to actually yourself use the spells that way. Make it clear that you're casting a spell, like, I don't know, let's just say a simple thing like Magic Missile, right? And they use the spell to, there's like, say they go into a ravine, and then they're going to drop these rocks on the back of it so that it locks them into the ravine or something like that. And see a high level wizard shoot the magic missile that arcs around and hits the rocks as it is set up to do it beforehand, so they crumble into the ravine, like something like that, right? Like if the DM starts doing that, then obviously the players would be like, oh shit, that's we can do that with spells, something like that.
Yeah. Well, but see, the thing was, in this particular case, the example he gave was I've got a wizard. I'm fighting an archer. That archer is going to riddle me with arrows, so I'm going to use my magic missile to drill out his eyes, because his idea is that it's unerring, so it automatically hits. But I don't necessarily agree with that interpretation. I think it automatically hits in general, but a precision hit, I don't know that that's how that works. Like,
it's not made to do aimed shot. Yeah. That's not a default thing in D&D.
I think you'd still have to do something to nail that. But even then, like, I think that's going too far, because like I had a player one time say that, okay, well, if I have the option of doing a headshot, every attack will always be a headshot.
Yeah, right.
And I'm like, great, I will do that to you too. Like, that's, if you do that, if you behave that way, that's how you will be treated in the game. The bad guys will start doing that. And I always have that option, but I don't do it because I'm not, it's not about brutality. It's about creating a narrative and engaging people with a story. And you don't accomplish that if everybody dies, but you have to have that kind of like that fair play aspect of it. And I think that, like, if you're a violent psychopath, and like, people are going to respond to you the same way. Like, you're going to get a reputation.
Yeah. I'm pretty lenient when it comes to that stuff, but I know a lot of people aren't, and that really drives the culture too. Is like, if it doesn't follow the wording of the spell, then it doesn't exactly happen. Like, if someone even came to me, like, magic missile is an easy one to talk about. Like, if they say, "Hey, I'm interrogating someone, I want to shoot magic missiles out, but I want to hold them in the air and not hit their target," right? I'd be like, okay, roll an Arcana, see if you can manage that, or something like that, right?
See, that's very interesting.
A cool effect.
That is really interesting. I don't see why that couldn't be done. But like,
that's not the cheesy, brutal stuff. Is, I feel like people actually, they use brutality as a way of adding effect rather than having it be something meaningful, right? It's kind of like, I mean, this is probably off topic. It's why I don't like horror movies in general. I feel like they just use guts and gore to make you feel something, when it really should be an actual story that makes you feel something. Not all of them, by the way. Just a lot of them do, especially the low budget ones.
Well, some of them do have a story, and then they make sequels.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, like, I've had there's a couple that stand out, but I've had to deal with players over the years where they are just violent, creatively violent, but like, they're violent for the sake of violence. And it's like, as you say, Greg, they're like, like we talked before, they're not playing the same game as everybody else, right?
Yeah.
And so, and it's no criticism of this gentleman. Like, he may very well be watching the show, right? It's not meant.
We
to
don't know
like,
the whole story either.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's like, it's just this is how he presented it, but it was like, reminded me of past experiences. And it's like, this is your game. If it works for you, that's fine. If everybody's in on it, but like, it's just, don't be surprised if you want to run it that way, and maybe the players aren't actually as excited about it as you think they are, right? And if their response is a certain behavior, and you're upset about it, they might be because they feel terrified for their lives, and they're like, they don't want their character to die, and because I've been in that situation too, where I'm like, I'm facing down an enemy that my character is not built to fight. And the only way I'm going to win this fight is if I come up on this guy, just run up on him and like kick him in the balls. Like, there's it's the only shot I have to take it down.
Like, I got a magic cup. You didn't hit me. Beat my armor class.
I was playing a sideboard character, and he was very powerful, but like, I know I'm about to face a psychic. And telekinesis can be, once they get you off your feet, it can be a very difficult thing to overcome. Especially if your character's tricked out for melee combat. Suddenly you're like, boing, 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 smash. You
got to win the initiative.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, I didn't, but I came through a wall. So
okay.
I Kool-Aid man the guy.
Yeah, I was about to say, were you Kool-Aid man?
Ooh, yeah. I totally did that. Yeah. But and then I electrified my leg and kicked him in the balls. People are like, dude. I'm like, look who I was fighting. So
yeah. So that kind of stuff is fine to me when it comes to like role playing. I mean, that's nothing. I think that stuff's fine. I just think it's like, shoot them in the eyes to put out their eyes. I don't actually think is that creative in general.
I think it's bad form. Like like if you're like, okay, I'm gonna beat this guy, I'm gonna kick his knee in, like
Yeah.
in real life, and it's a life and death situation where you're somebody's coming after you, like, sure, right, stuff like that, because like, this dude's gonna kill your family. I don't know what the situation is, but it's like,
Yeah.
I know what we're talking about though is like, it's a game. Like, yeah, maybe you don't want your character to die, but it's like, and that might be the justification, because I'm sure this guy wouldn't behave that way in real life. Like, most of these people I know who are like this in the game do not behave this way. It's like, it's a fantasy world, but like, yeah.
Yeah, to be fair, I mean, like, if this was Morkborg, that game is all about life is cheap, kind of, because it's like an OSR type game. And sometimes they have fun with how their characters die. So so it could be his approach. I think more importantly, it's about like, how do your players react to that? Do your players like, oh, I'm scared of this, or that's gross, I don't know if I
the goal
like
of that, by the way, is, or sorry, the way to handle that, I've had that happen all the time. Everyone's like, oh, I'm pissed at that guy, I'm gonna freaking gouge out his eyes or something like that. The way I always handle that is, you mean you're gonna try to gouge out his eyes, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then as you attack, oh no, you missed, you hit him in the shoulder, sorry, a glancing 5 hit points.
yeah, exactly. Well, there should be a called shot rule if the game's built well, and so
and D&D, D&D has an optional one, I think.
Yeah.
Even with D&D, it's so hard because it's so hit point focused that it's just like, oh, this guy has 100 hit points. I don't care what called shot you're doing, you're going to miss because you're not taking him out on the first hit.
True. But like, I do like the idea of, okay, he's got 100 hit points, but that doesn't mean that like he doesn't have vulnerable spots, right? And you can,
I have that happen all the time. Lose arms, legs,
totally.
One of our groups just played Tales from Elsewhere. It's a Western horror post-apocalyptic game.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an original rule system, and it does have ways where you roll and what level of injury you might cause. Like, there's different slots. Strain would be like what you would think of as hit points, and then they have different like levels beyond that create injuries.
Yeah,
and you're encouraged, as a horror game, to describe what kind of injuries you're doing. It went fine. So of course, Julie was aiming for the head as much as she could. So
of course,
what they call the ace.
So we had a situation in a recent campaign. We're doing Palladium Fantasy. It's not Rifts, but you can count that towards your drinking game, Greg. And
I don't have any alcohol.
Yeah. So I was
I'll drink some water.
Perfect. There we go. So my friend, my artist friend, who I guess I just won't mention her name just because, but like, she has this interesting personality where she kind of comes off a little sweet and innocent, and so people tend to be on their best behavior around her. Like, there's less swearing at the table and jokes are a little less crude, and it's like, and she kind of comes off the way, and then she ends up being the most violent and brutal person at the table. But it's
like
almost,
my wife.
but it's almost funny, because it's weird, because she's like, I don't like movies that make violence funny. And then she behaves that way. But we had this campaign, so they're fighting against these like dragon people, guys, and there's a battle between this draconic race and these giants, right? And so they decided to side with the giants. They could have picked one, they picked the giants. So they're helping the giants out, and then she has a battle against one dude and has 2 daggers, just goes for it and manages to get the hit and blinds him and sends him careening down. And leaves him alive, and sends him careening down to the bottom of a chasm. We're like, oh my God, you're just teeing me up. It's like, and so all of a sudden, boom, instant arch enemy, right there. But that's like a way of building storytelling out of it, right? And like, rather than having just brutality for brutality's sake, you're taking advantage of these things and building it into the plot, and that's great, I think. And that character was chasing him down the whole time, trying to catch up with them, and they ended up learning that they were being pursued, but like, they were always just one step ahead of the guy. So, and he ends up making a pact with demons and gets power, magically restored his sight. So he's still blind, but he can see, and he's like, I'm gonna get you. That ended up turning into the final battle of the campaign, and she she just killed him like a bitch and taunted him as he died. It's like, what the hell, dude?
Yeah. I can't say the stuff my wife's done in our personal games. It'd probably get demonetized. I'm still scarred by it.
Yeah. There's times in the dark when you're by yourself, you memory
That's right.
returns, and you sit there and you just tremble, and it's like, oh my god.
She used to have this character where she went around like a little old lady, and she would go and tell people like, "Did I tell you about the time I used to eat children?"
It's like, holy damn, dude.
I was like, "What the hell?"
Wow.
Yep. Somebody set the
Anyway.
tone. Yeah.
So yeah, I totally, the DM should set the tone, and if
Yeah.
you want creativity in some aspect of the game, it starts with you for sure.
Well, and so like, I guess like how do we do it? And I think the
Session 0.
session 0, but you also can be more narrative focused. Like when I run these games, I tend to like I'm very big on having a storyline behind it and engaging them with the story. And like I don't believe that there should be. I don't believe in random encounters. I think that if you're going to have a fight scene in the game, it needs to move the story forward in some fashion, right? Even the quote unquote random encounter, there needs to be a reason for it. Like be
XP.
well, sure, but like they're on their way somewhere. Yes, there's going to be monsters in the forest, right? But they're still in the context of this travel to get somewhere. They're an obstacle to getting there. But even like, yeah, I think it's a storytelling game, so every aspect of it should be forward in the narrative. So it's like, it having violence for violence sake, I don't think is a good idea.
Every random character. If you're doing like a mystery, for instance, every random encounter that you deal with should hopefully leave like some type of clue they could pick up on or something.
Yeah, or somebody, or
Yeah.
like somebody's like, oh well, you are standing in, like I'm trying to stop you from discovering what actually happened, so I'm going to try to eliminate you. So you got like the hitman or something, right?
Yeah, I mean, some people like sandbox and stuff, but I do think it's cleaner to try to link your story together. So,
well, even sandbox needs an overall story.
Even a sandbox style, you can find that narrative, right? Like the players are choosing to go left instead of right, but you're the narrative will emerge. You need something for them to sink their teeth into. It can't just be, okay, well, we're going to go here and do whatever we want. Like it, the GM is a participant in the storytelling process, but they are not the storytelling process. They're just part of it.
Yeah, that reminds me. I was watching when back before the latest campaign on Critical Role, Brandon Lee Mulligan came on for something, and it was a high level game, and it's just like listening to the combat was so cool because it wasn't just like I attack, I hit 3 times, here's my damage, right? It was like, yeah, I'm holding on to the spectral dragon in the air. I'm riding on top as I beat it with my mace or something like that. And they're like flying around everywhere. Like in my brain, I'm just thinking everyone's flying around everywhere doing this crap. And it's just like, it's cool though, because it's very hard to get people out of that. I attack and do this damage when really they should be like, well, how are you going about it? What are you doing? Like especially high level games, you're high level. I don't expect you to just sit there in your space, right?
Yeah.
I expect you to do some crazy epic stuff.
Yeah, I have one player I gamed with off and on, and I always have to help him out a little bit because he'll be like, oh, I just hit. I'm like, well, how'd you hit? Explain a little bit. And then sometimes I'll be like, I don't know. What do you think is the name of this place? And it's like, I don't know. It's like, come on, name place. And once this person does, they love it, right? So, but you gotta help them do that. So,
well, one of the things that I do, because I like no game master ever has all the names for every NPC worked out. I know Greg has a list, but in reality, we usually just, here's an NPC. What's his name? And I have a player that'll just laugh and go, "What's his name, Woody?" But I've had a thing where I've got the players involved in naming the character, like. Or what do we call this town? Like
I've seen people do that.
Yeah. I mean, it works. It builds that engagement actually, and usually they have better ideas than I do.
Yeah, I probably should have listed names because my non-listed names are horrible. But
or you can ask audience members, and they come up with really crazy
audience members, and it gets real bad.
It turns into comedy real fast.
I seem to recall that it has.
But yeah, anyway.
But another thing I've done too, because I have people go, oh yeah, I just shoot him, or I attack, and so sometimes I'll because like you can prompt people to describe it, but I've also kind of thing where I've like, when they do that, I'll just kind of quickly narrate that's part of the battle myself. Like, okay, well, with little swish, and like the back, or like the guy hits and you duck out of the way. Like I've kind of I don't know if it's necessarily making it more exciting for the players, but I feel like it's like a little bit more engaging. Because because they're certainly not narrating it. So,
and if I have a player who I'm trying to do that, urge them to do it, and they just aren't feeling it that day because they're tired and they just want to, kind of take it a little easy, then just describe stuff. So, I just don't want people to always get like binary. I hit, you hit, I hit, you hit.
Yeah,
there's always a struggle, especially I think just D&D and just other games too, where you could just fall into that if you're not careful.
I think that the AC system kind of teaches you to think that way, though, because like with we've always done the Palladium system over the years for mostly, and with it being so dynamic where you can choose what kind of defense you do and you have so many options, and it's not that complicated. I mean, it's not that much, but like once you get into, I can do this, I can, you could be creative in how you describe your attack, and it definitely encourages you to think that way. And but sometimes you have to remind people, that you can do that, because even in a D&D game, you can still do it, and it adds more flavor, and it certainly should impact the outcome, because like what you choose to do can sometimes have a bigger impact than the die rolls, and it certainly works that way in the Palladium system, and I've seen it work that way in others as well. But like your decision, how and it kind of like that's kind of I think what this guy was kind of getting at with his excessive brutality and the use of his abilities. But it's like but it is true. Like even in a simple like AC system, you just have to hit your target number to hit them every time. Like if you are getting into the minutia of like how you do it and the creativity of like, no, I'm going to go for the table leg and bring the table out from underneath this guy or whatever it is like that. Those sometimes have a bigger impact.
Yeah, because they could have parried you. They could have, bounced off their thick skin. There's all sorts of reasons. AC kind of, just kind of generically,
simplifies it.
Yeah, it does simplify it a lot.
Yeah,
but that's what you lose unless you want to push yourself to describe it more.
Yeah, exactly. and I like the idea of having more flavor and creativity and strategy.
That's why I like in D100 games. I mean, maybe it's too much, but they have armor that just reduces damage for armor. So if you hit, where you hit and what they absorbed armor. And I think that automatically makes people describe and picture details a little bit more whenever they're doing the fight.
I think the opposite of that is using a VTT. A VTT totally incentivizes just the hit damage thing.
Yeah,
which is very annoying.
Yeah, that does too.
Well, there a lot of them are 2D, right? But even those 3D ones, they're not animated. I mean,
because it makes me remember the old days of playing like Nintendo or Super Nintendo or whatever it was, where you're like playing Final Fantasy or Dragon War or whatever, and you're just like little 2D piercing. Go whack, I hit, whack, I hit. That's how it could devolve to if you're not careful.
Yeah. No, for sure. I think that engaging with that aspect of it is important. It's like to keep it interesting too. And I think that part of changing this paradigm that we were discussing is like, encouraging the players to, have those creative moments but also you have to give them the freedom to do it. And, hey, here's a thought. You don't get fireball. That's just not a spell in this world. I know, but like, maybe, get people to pick other stuff, that you can also do that, we're just not going to have fireball. Find other ways, Yeah.
Yep. What about fireballs? No, sorry.
I do lightning bolt. Well,
I like chain lightning is quite dangerous too.
It is. My wife was really always looking for interesting ways to use spells, and she liked the idea that the flaming sphere just sits there, and it eventually catches something on fire. Trying to burn stuff down, and creative ways to use animals that she summoned, and just She actually would go out of her way. She would just simply wouldn't use her spells sometimes just because I've already done that. I want to do something else.
My wife used Druidcraft and tried to do everything with Druidcraft, including like strangling people and stuff. I'm like, that's a cantrip, right?
Yeah.
But I try never to say no, like 100% no.
Yeah. I created a spell. I created a cantrip for manipulating hair, and the idea being that if somebody's got long hair, you could try to choke them out with it.
Yeah.
Or at least, get in their eyes.
I like that.
Why not?
Yeah.
Just hair magic. Wouldn't that be interesting?
Yeah,
what if you could pick people up by their hair?
Yeah. Well, like we have this character Conway in the in the comic, and he's always has to have perfect hair, the perfect afro, and that's one of the toughest things to kind of get new artists into the idea, because they keep trying to creatively draw his hair. Is no, it has to be perfect because that's his thing.
He's like a space ball.
Exactly, but I've actually had people draw it like a Spaceball helmet, but it's an interesting thing because he actually has a spell that makes his hair perfect, and it's kind of the joke of Bill Murray at the end of Ghostbusters, where everybody's covered in the soap suds.
Yeah, and he missed it all.
And he comes out and is like, "Hey guys, what's going on?" And it's like he's almost nothing. And
he's like,
how did you do that? It's a good joke, but this character is kind of like that, where people are messed up, and he's like, "I'm fine," Got that perfect hair. So,
cool.
Well, shoot, I feel like we have an episode on that one.
Think so. Yeah. Do we have a recap? Is there anything we want to?
No.
Well, nope, I mean, I think it just. I mean, we've kind of gone in and out of the
video again. If didn't get it.
Yeah, exactly. But no, it's like if it always starts with the game master, right? So the game master is organizing the table, organizing the game. You're either gonna make it a friendly atmosphere, or you can make it an aggressive, combative one, or something in between. But it's like if you want a certain type of gameplay, you have to kind of set that standard, and it doesn't have to be constantly violent and battle. We're not always just playing Final Fantasy Tactics here. So
yeah. I like Greg's example where have an NPC who has magic, use the magic in a creative way as an example for the players, so they can learn from that. Because sometimes they just need a little guidance. Especially if they're new to role playing games, they just don't know what they can or can't do sometimes.
Yeah, and if you want people to do more creative things in combat, have the enemies do creative things against them.
Yeah, but also I think brutality to the point of magic missile, we're shooting out people's eyes. You got to draw a line. You may think that's fun and cool, but and
gonna do it next time. Watch out,
it's
Greg.
Just game.
Yeah.
It's just game breaking. That's the problem.
It is you have to draw a line. Because the game has to be fun, and if it's a constant fight for survival, that may not be fun for everybody.
Yeah.
The party fought a mage, and after that, none of them had eyes left. They were all blind.
Yeah.
But I mean, you can't, because if what you're doing is you're creating a blind condition. So magic missile doesn't do that. So it's not. Yeah. I know it technically can't miss, but it's not designed.
Well, I think it's meant to be center mass.
Yeah.
If you're going to allow a precision hit like that, I think that. There needs to be a skill check of some kind.
It'd have to be a called shot. Yeah.
It does say that it can go around corners and stuff. So I usually allow people to do anything creative with that. And if it's something's really creative, I'm like, roll an Arcana, see if you can handle it.
But if you're maiming the whole world, you can't go on like that forever because people will eventually come after you.
Just the bad guys.
Yeah,
it takes 2 missiles though, so it's okay.
Well, but the thing is, you're not the hero anymore.
No.
And I think that people might respond a little differently if they come to a town and suddenly everybody's terrified of the party, because they've heard these tales of these, these, and it turns out that the stories of them are not of heroics.
Yeah. Then people run evil campaigns too. That's a whole other thing. But anyway.
But
that's beyond the scope of today's episode. I think we're wrapped up.
Yes, it is.
I'm gonna stop before we get any more tangents.
Yeah, exactly. Let's all right, let's wrap it up.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for watching. Let us know your thoughts about how do you set the tone on your table, or how does your GM, if you're a player, set the tone? And And do you think people should be able to blind people with magic missile? I don't know.
And what green screen effect are you applying to Greg's part of the video?
Yeah, well, he turned almost completely invisible. His just chest would be the only thing showing. All right. Well, thanks everybody for watching, and please let us know in the comments what you think. Please like, please subscribe, and until next time,
Keep poking people's eyes out.
Please don't.
When the dice roll high, we touch the